Hello, my name is Sarah Louie.
Aiswarya Kunta.
Megan Pitt.
And we're with the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program from the University of Florida. Today is the 7th of August, 2019, and I am interviewing
Doris Drake
at Dr. Banks' home in Natchez, Mississippi. Can you please introduce yourself, Ms. Banks?
My name is Doris Drake.
Straight, I'm so sorry.
Drake. That's okay.
Straight.
Well, I was born and raised in Natchez, Mississippi. I lived here for quite a number of years. And then when I graduated from high school, I went to live up north. And after that didn't work out, I came back and I've been here ever since. I'm a hometown girl. I love the country.
What brought you back to Natchez?
Well, my husband and I divorced and I had 4 kids. So I thought it was better for them to live in the country than in the city, because during that time, the city was kind of like raw in drugs and crime, and I didn't want to bring my kids up in that kind of atmosphere. And then this is my hometown, and I knew people here, and I thought they would be better living in the country than living in the city.
What was it like for you growing up here?
Well, growing up in Natchez is like a bittersweet experience, because when I was growing up, I thought it was very normal for Black people to endure the things they had to endure as opposed to what should have been. Like, for instance, I thought it was a normal thing for us to sit at the back of the bus instead of the front. I thought it was a normal thing for us to walk to school, which I walked for 3 miles to high school. I thought it was normal to not be able to walk on a sidewalk and keep your eyes not directly looking at a white person, but kind of like avert your eyes to something else. I thought this was normal. I had no idea this was wrong. I wasn't aware of all the injustices that was done to Black people until I became, say, a young lady. But to me, it was normal for us to eat the food that we did and not eat the food that we could have had, go to a store and not be able to sit at the counter. I thought this was a normal thing. I didn't see nothing wrong with it. I thought it was normal to have a white sign at one window and a colored sign at another window to be waited on. It never occurred to me that this was injustice until I became grown and I found out that, no, this is not right. You know, we're human beings. Why not treat us as human beings, not like we are second-class citizens? And I just wanted to be involved in something that would turn these events around, which I did by joining the NDoubleACP and the Icebreakers.
Who started that change of mindset? Did someone talk to you about it? Did you have conversations about it? When did you start thinking that this was wrong?
I'll say when I finished high school and I got involved with the rallies that they held at Black churches, and I mean, it would be standing room only. And other people started talking about things that had happened in the community. Then I said, well, there's got to be something wrong with this picture. All these people are talking about it and nobody's doing anything about it. But of course, during that time, most Black people were afraid to step forward to say anything because they was in fear of their life. Because during that time, white people would do brutal things to you, you know, harass you, either kill you. And we didn't want to be in those positions. We just wanted to live like first-class citizens as like the white people did. And we decided to do something about it.
What was it like joining the NAACP?
It was an eye-opener, to tell you the truth, because I knew nothing about this organization until I became a member of it. I didn't know it even existed, to tell you the truth. I didn't know anything about the Black Panthers, the Deacons. I didn't know about these people, period. But by becoming a part of the NAACP, it opened your eyes to what was happening into the world, not only in our community, other places too. But in the South, it was more prevalent. You know, in the South, white people were horrible. They were. And you were scared for your life if you stepped across that line. So you kind of like backed off and went with the flow.
So when you joined when did you join the NAACP? Like what was the
60s.
The 60s.
In the 60s.
So how was that for you in that political climate of MLK, and then of course the bus boycott in Montgomery had already happened. So what was that like?
And like I said, it was an eye-opener. I came to realize that this is not right living like this. This is not right that I have to go to the back of the bus and you sit at the front of the bus. I can't go into white establishments because I'm black. And when we did go into them, they would charge us prices that were not on the menu. For instance, if a Coke was 50 cents, they'll charge us something like $5, a sandwich, $7. And then they would intimidate us, by standing around, giving that look, And we just stayed the course and just went on through with it, And then my parents, they were afraid for me. They thought I was going to get harmed. But I just refused to let them continue to do us like this. I didn't want to live in fear all the time. I wanted to have a normal life like they had a normal life, like their children had a normal life. I wanted to be able to go into a store and sit at the counter and order food without being intimidated, without being harassed. I just came to a point where I wasn't going to stand it anymore.
Do you remember any specific protests that you went out to, or specific instance of like fighting back that have really stuck out in your memory?
Well, when I became a member of the Icebreakers, our purpose was to go into white establishments that black people had never gone before. So we chose to go to the City Cafe, which was on the corner of Union and Franklin. And this was a main place where the policemen would go and white businessmen would go. But we just got the courage to go in and sit down to the table. And they would give us very disrespectful services. They didn't respect us at all. They treated us less than humans because they wanted us to get us out of there, let them know that they didn't appreciate our business. But we stayed the course. We stayed there until we finished eating our sandwich and drinking our Coke, and then we left. That really stuck out in my mind. Young kids today, they don't know what we have gone through to get to this point. They don't realize how important it is to look back on your history and learn from it and go forward. And just as today is good, but it could be better, hidden racism is still here. It's discrimination is still here. They just don't keep it, say, in view like they did. They don't keep it in view for us to see, but it's still here. You can feel it. Sometimes you go in places now.
So make a distinction between protests and the Icebreakers. These are two different activities. You were asking about protests and the Icebreakers is the other aspect of what she was doing. That is testing places to integrate and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But that's a protest right there. When you go into white places that black people don't normally go, that's protesting the white establishment. We want to be treated like human beings. I don't want you just looking down on me. Look in my eye and treat me like a human being. I may be black, but I'm still a human being. When you bleed blood, I do too. I don't think the difference between you and I is that I'm black and you're white.
Could you tell us about the makeup of the Icebreakers? Like the number of people involved, male, female?
Well, I can't really remember the specific number of people involved, but it was over at least 15 or 20 of us. And it was created by this black barber. You remember Black Jack?
We just took a picture of his.
He had a barbershop down here on the Pine Street. And he created the Icebreakers. And our purpose, like I said, was to go into white places that black people would not have gone. They didn't think about going because they were scared. We was a little nervous, but we still wanted to go. And we would go to these places, sit down and eat. We didn't disturb nobody. We went loud, we paid for the tab, which our food was for. and then we would report back to the NDoubleACP where we had gone and what had been done. But our purpose was to just to break that barrier of you can't come here. Why can't I not come here? I'm human. I'm pain. I'm not disturbing the peace. I'm not wrecking the place. All I want to be is served and say thank you and going out the door. But like I say, during that time, white people were brutal. They were really brutal. But they want you to clean their houses up, but they don't want you to sit at their counter. Mm-hmm. My mother was a housekeeper for 30-some years. She walked to work, going and coming. But yet, they don't want you to come in their stores and sit at the counter to eat. That's outrageous. That's outrageous. That's injustice. And like I said, it's still going on now. It's still going on.
Make a note that the building that you photographed for the Deacons president, that's who she's talking about. It's called Big Jack Jackson. Mm-hmm. And she's saying he also, so we have a deacon creating the Icebreakers here. Okay.
So can you tell us a little bit more about Big Jack?
Well, he was tall and very dark.
And handsome.
Yeah, he was handsome, but he wouldn't take no stuff. He really wouldn't take no stuff. He wouldn't back down. And he just brought us all together and said, it's time for us to do something. If you don't start at some point, you never will get to the goal that you're trying to achieve. And that was to go into places that black people would not normally go and sit at the counter and eat, you know, like we were supposed to. Because we are citizens of the United States. We are natives of Natchez, Mississippi. We deserved to be treated as such. And it's like I said, if you don't start at something, you won't accomplish nothing. But he was a very yeah, that's him. That's Jack. You know. And he was a no stuff man. He carried a pistol too. You know, he didn't take no stuff from nobody. But he was compassionate and he cared about the civil rights of black people. Mm-hmm. And that's what we were concerned about, the civil rights of black people. If you are a citizen of the United States of America, why can't we have the same rights as you have? Why can't we? And that's what he did. He created the Icebreakers.
So how is it for you being in the Icebreakers and being in the NAACP? Was there a difference?
It wasn't really a difference. Only with the Icebreakers, you know, we were physically going to places and eat where black people weren't allowed. NAACP was instrumental in letting us know what's going on in the community and what we couldn't do and what we should do, and bring us together and tell us when we were going to protest and when we was going to march. And during the time that I was the secretary of Mr. Metcalf, they sent some of these people to Parchment when they arrested them, the protesters. And I had to read the paper of how they treated them. And it broke my heart to think they treated them like animals in that place. You know, give you magnesia and give you a square piece of paper to wipe your behind and turn the hose pipe on you and then turn the air conditioner on you. What kind of treatment is this for you to give black people, a human being? What kind of person does that to you just because you are white? It's not right. It's not right. Like I say, racism, discrimination, it still exists in the United States now. You can see in the news, things that happen in the news, it still exists. And it's never going to go away for us, I'm concerned. Personally speaking, I don't think it's never going to go away. Now, we are better off than we were when I was a girl. You know, we're allowed to go places now, do things, be in office, but it's never going to go away.
Could you shed some light on some things today that you think resemble the past?
Well, let me see. Well, when you go into stores sometime and you give your money to the clerk, they don't want you to put it in their hand. they want you to put it on the counter. If they give you your change back, they'll put it on the counter as opposed to put it in your hand. But the white person standing behind you or what's in front of you, it goes in their hand. What's up with that? Why don't you do that to me and not do that to them? And then some people will just blatantly look at you like they got so much hatred in their face for you. You know, I just understand it. But it's still the same. It's a little more undercover now than it was back then, but it's still the same. I don't see no difference, no major difference.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the events were organized for the Icebreakers? Who decided where to go, and how would you guys organize before you guys left?
Well, we would normally meet at Jack's barber shop, and we would get together as a group, and we discuss the details of what place we were going to next, how we would get there, what time we was going to stay there, the length of time we was going to stay there, and when would we leave. And we always told each other, go in there peacefully, don't create any negative vibes in there, just say, good afternoon or good evening, whatever the case may be, we would like to order some food, please, and be served and pay for our food. Don't be loud. And at a certain time, we would leave. But every week, we would decide on what place where we were going to go to. It wasn't a place at random. They would pick the place for us as a group.
So because you mentioned that you were secretary for Metcalf?
Yes, I was. I don't remember how I became his secretary. When I graduated from high school, some kind of way I became his secretary. And I didn't have any secretary experience. Seriously, I didn't do no. I wasn't very good at typing. But he wanted me to be his secretary. And I learned as I went along to be a better typist and how to send in paperwork to the main office and how to answer the telephone and how to greet visitors and get his mail and so on and so on. But I learned on the way. But it never dawned on me to be a secretary. I didn't set out to be a secretary. What I really wanted to do was leave Natchez, go to a big city, get me a good job, get my own apartment, get my own car, and live a fabulous life. But it didn't turn out like that.
Get magazine.
I came back to Natchez. But it was a learning experience, and being his secretary, I learned a lot about the world outside of Natchez. He was the one that sent me to my first convention. I think it was in Baltimore, Maryland. We went to this convention. And being a country girl, I wasn't used to seeing tall buildings, you know. And I was in awe of all these tall buildings and all these people and everything that's going on. But I learned that there's something outside of Natchez other than Natchez. People are much more open than in Natchez. There's not a whole lot of discrimination that I could see in this city like it was in Natchez. You know, when you open to other places and other people, you expand your knowledge. And that's what I want to do. I want to expand myself and see what the world was like. But I came back to Natchez. I've been here ever since. And I'm still trying to learn and expand.
Going back to Icebreakers, what time did you guys usually meet? And what day of the week? Was it on the weekend or during the week?
Sometimes it'd be through the week because everybody had jobs, so it usually be in the evening time when everybody got off their jobs and we could get together and discuss where we were going and how we were going to get there, because a lot of people didn't have cars, so we would carpool, you know, so many would get in this car and so many get in this car and so on and so on. And like I said, we discussed where we were going and what time we were going to stay there and what we was going to order. Because the money we had to buy food was our own money, really, you know. We would pool in our monies together and see how much this is going to cost, how much this is going to cost. Of course, when we got there, they usually would jack the price up on us to make us leave, you know. But we refused to leave. We would pay whatever the cost was and then grumble about it after. Dang, after all my money. But anyway, We got our point across. We're not going anywhere. We're going to keep coming back until you accept us as citizens of Natchez, Mississippi, and that we are worthy of being here.
What did other community members think of the Icebreakers?
Well, they thought we were right on.
Right on.
They admired us for what we did. Because, like I said, a lot of people were afraid to get in those kind of organizations because they were afraid of the repercussions that would be against them if somebody found out they was in this group. But they admired us for what we did, and they told us they wanted us to keep doing what we was doing. We got the okay from the NAACP to keep doing what we was doing because we were a part of the NAACP to let people know we need to step up to the plate, get a spine, and do what we have to do because things can't stay like this way all the time. We refuse to let it stay like this. We won't let it stay like this. We are going to do something about it.
What kept you motivated going through God, family, the people you worked with? Like, what kept you to keep working with the Icebreakers and the NAACP?
Because I want to change. I want a change to come. Because it was like, sometimes some barrier, you see, like when, I remember a time when I was going to school, I would walk to school from Humberhill Street to Sadie Thompson. And the white kids would be on the school bus. Of course, they would holler out the window names at us, spit out the window, throw some out the window at us. And you get tired of being in this kind of environment. You got to think to yourself, something got to be better than this. I can't go on my life like this. God wouldn't want us to be like this. He created all of us. So why can't I be a part of the bigger picture too? Just because I'm black? No, let me be a part of the human race and treat me with dignity. Something got to change, and you might as well try to make it change. God and family, and you want to change, is motivation enough, personally to me.
Was there ever any resistance within the Black community to the Icebreakers and what you guys were doing?
Oh no, we never had no kind of resistance to what we were doing, because they knew what we were doing. The ones who knew, and which it was a whole lot of them, they didn't have the courage to do it because I can understand that you got family, and most of the time you working in somebody's house as a housekeeper, something like that. You don't want them to lose their jobs. It's not to see them in that group. So I understood where they was coming from. So I was happy to be a part of an organization that would bring about change. If I had to do it all over again, I would do it all over again.
You shared that your mom worked as a housekeeper.
She did.
So how did you reconcile with that while participating in the Icebreakers? With your mom's safety, perhaps?
Well, they were more concerned about me than they were for their safety, because my mom, like I said, she works as a housekeeper for 30-some years. And she was afraid that I would get hurt. She wasn't afraid for herself because she was a strong black woman, and nobody really knew aside the black people in the community that was my mom, church members and so on, people in the neighborhood. So I wasn't really afraid for her, but she was afraid for me. Because she knew that we was in something dangerous, and like I said, white people during that time would do horrible things to you. But they didn't want you to bring about change. They wanted to stay the same way. You step behind them, they're in front.
What was your mother?
Ida B.
Ida B. who?
Johnson. Now you know my mom and my dad.
No, for the record.
Oh, okay. Ida B. Johnson, and my dad was named Elijah Johnson. They were strong black people. Strong black people.
Were they also part of the NAACP?
They weren't part of the NAACP per se, but they were behind anything that NAACP suggested. They was behind us as Icebreakers. If we needed some money, they would give it to us. If we needed a ride somewhere, they would take us there. Because they lived in the country, and I lived in Natchez, in the city limits. So it was kind of hard for them to get involved. They had no kind of ride. Like I said, my mom would walk to work. So therefore, it's kind of hard for her to take me places. So we depended on each other, the ones who had cars, like Earl Lee Turner, who previously gave y'all that interview. He was a member of the Icebreakers too. And we were riders all week long in his big green car.
What did your parents teach you other than to be strong? Like, what did you learn from them other than being strong?
If you want something out of life, you have to work hard for it. My mom always believed in you put God first, you pray on it, and things will happen for you in a positive way. And I firmly believe that. I teach my kids that today. You put God first, you pray on it, and you leave it alone. My parents were hard-working people. They believed in hard work. They believed in you going to church. They believe in you giving yourself respect, not only for yourself, but respect your elders. And treat people like you want to be treated. And I carry those values with me today. I always believed in that.
You mentioned earlier that some people would come to the meetings and stuff, but they weren't officially part of the NAACP. What prevented people from being an official part of it, and how were they just kind of tangentially involved with the organization?
They would come to the rallies that we had at church, you know. Now, I can't say all of them weren't members because I don't know. But it was so many people at those rallies until it'd be standing room only, because they want to know what was going on, what was being said, what could be done, and they gave their support to the NAACP. Now, whether or not all of them was members, like I said, I don't know. But it was more than a lot of people who was members, a lot of people. I was a member, but like I said, when I left and came back, I didn't pick the membership back up, which I would have to give it to Albert and renew my membership, because I should have been done that a long time ago. But you know, in a day scheme of working and living, some things you just forget until somebody brings it to your attention.
How long did your work in the Icebreakers last?
I can't remember exactly, but I was in the Icebreakers until I left and went to Baltimore, Maryland. I was in there for a number of years. I guess after that, everybody's either just dissolved it, people went away, people died, people wanted their life, but it didn't stay intact after I left.
Do you know what year to year that you participated in it?
Unfortunately, I don't.
This is more like after the success of the boycott, then you start getting, they started hiring and things like that. There was no more need to go out until there was no more need to go out and testing.
It's always a need to go out. Mm-hmm. That never goes away. Okay. As you can see in the day's news now, TV and newspaper, it's a need, period, to keep pushing for civil rights for everybody. Mm-hmm. Not just for one race to have everything, nobody else has it. That's not right. America is a melting pot of everybody. All creeds, colors, nationalities. This is what makes America. So why should one particular race have everything and don't share with everybody? What gives you the right to do that?
Okay, but about what time, what period, not a date or what have you, when the Icebreakers stopped doing what they were doing?
Well, I left after I graduated in '66. I think probably maybe shortly after that. I'm not sure, and I'm only guessing.
You're in the right area.
Yeah.
You're in the right area. So around 66, it's 66. This is after the concessions have been won in 65, in late 65. The civil rights concession, the breakdown of the system, and it starts hiring and everything.
Yeah. And then you began what year? If 66 was when you left?
66 is when I graduated from high school and left. I wanted to see some in the world. Like I said, I had big ambitions to get a good job and get a way out apartment, a nice car, wear nice clothes, But that didn't materialize like I wanted it to. So after I got married and had kids, I came back home where I felt more safe than among strangers. Because in the city, people, are not as friendly as opposed to in a small town, where everybody knows everybody. If you need a cup of sugar, hey, you got some sugar or whatever? Yeah, come and get it. In the city, you won't be without.
66 is a good time because the Deacons and all those people, once they started hiring, they wouldn't hire the people who changed the system. And so many of them left Natchez to go places to get jobs. The people, like any other place in California when we did civil rights, the people who didn't protest or what have, they were the ones who wound up with the jobs and the opportunity. So 66 is a good cut day.
Were the majority of icebreakers young and in high school?
No, there were older people, and like Jack was a older man, and some of them lived out of town in the surrounding small town like Fayette. They came from there. But most of us was in our adulthood and young adulthood and older. And it wasn't like kids or teenagers, none like that, period. It was all adults.
Who were the others in the Icebreakers, and what did they end up going on to do?
Well, Jack owned his own business as a barber. I think Early went to the Army or out of town, I'm not sure. My cousin, Margie wasn't in it. Hollis Davis, she still lives here in Natchez. And
Thomas Davis is you saying?
No, Hollis Davis.
Hollis Davis.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Leandra Davis' wife. They live out there in Linwood.
Okay.
Early, like I said, went to the Army, and most of the young dudes either went back to their hometowns, joined the Army, or some of them died off and went to different directions. That'll happen when you live in a small town. You want to get ahead. You want to better your life, so you either go to the city, get you a better job, or either you live here, like they had the IP plant was here. They would work there. Some of them worked there. But for the most part, like
International Paper Mill.
Yes, there was a big plant out there. Well, a lot of people worked there. So you either got your job at the plant or either a Wholesome Bakery, what's another tire plant. A lot of people work there. Yeah, the plants like that. Either you went to the city to try to get you a better job, or you settled down, married, and just stayed in your small town.
When you were in the Icebreakers, what was the importance of entering these white businesses and being respectful or polite when you were there?
To let them know we are here. It's time for a change. We will not continue to pass by your place and not come in there and eat like everybody else who is white. We deserve respect. We are human beings. We want you to know that we want to change. It's time for a change. We're not going to let it stay like it was for so many years. Respect us. All we want was respect. To treat us as human beings, not like second-class citizens. When we come in your place and we come in there and say, how you doing? We want to order from the menu. Let us do that. Don't look down at us and give us a very bad service to make us feel that we weren't wanted, which we knew they didn't want us there. But we was going to sit there until they served us. Our purpose was to go into these places and let other black people know it's okay to go in there too.
Do you remember the boycott of the white-owned businesses, and what was your role in the boycott, and how did the people around you react?
We were all for it. We were all for it because a lot of these businesses just want your money, but they didn't want you. What I'm trying to say is that they don't want you to come into their place and sit down and eat. They want your money and you leave. And the NAACP decided to boycott all white businesses to let them know there's power in togetherness. There's power when you come together as one. There's power in trying to change what's going on now. We want to change.
Do you remember how the people in the community enforced the boycott? So were there certain things that you guys would do that you wouldn't normally do in order to make sure that people actually don't go to the white businesses?
They didn't go. They were all for it. That's why it was such a success. They did not go. They turned that businesses upside down. Because black people, when we go to the store, we're going to spend money. Especially places like Kent's. You remember Kent's? And, those
On
places.
Franklin Street.
Yes, indeed. We would go in those places, buy up stuff, for our families, and they missed that money. When you see a portion of your income for the store not being there anymore for weeks, days, or whatever the time may be, you're going to miss it. And you're going to make some concessions to what you can do to bring about a change, how we feel about black people. And that's what they wanted, and that's what we got. And I thank God we changed it around.
Some of this morning we picked up that some of the deacons were involved in enforcing the boycott, making sure that there are certain black folks who didn't want to boycott, that they wouldn't go by. Do you know anything about that?
No.
You weren't that part, okay.
No, I don't remember that. But like I
So
say,
we have the possibility of different structures of activity going on and responsibilities. A lot of people didn't even know that there were these organizations like Deacons and what have you, because it wasn't quite obvious to a lot of people. And other people had roles that they were doing that the Deacons didn't know. It comes out in these interviews.
but fear kept a lot of people from doing stuff. And you can understand this if you grew up in a small town in that kind of atmosphere. You can understand where they're coming from. If your mother's working in a white household, bringing in money to help the family, you don't want to jeopardize that because you need the money. You don't want to jeopardize anything that's going to cause anything negative to happen to your family members or your household. So therefore, you're going to do it undercover. Well, here's some money for this. We are glad y'all here. We're glad you what you're doing. But they wouldn't say it out openly. Somebody can see them. They go back and tell the stature quo or whatever the people in power to be, because they were afraid. And when you live in fear, there are a lot of things you want to do, but you won't do because your life is in jeopardy.
Do you remember any of the people who got jobs in these white-owned businesses after the boycott, and what were their experiences with working?
I do not remember.
How did the black church play a role in your activism?
The black churches were the only ones that would let people have the NAACP have their rallies in. If it wasn't for the black churches, we wouldn't have anywhere to meet. And they opened their doors up and people went to those churches. Like I said, it was standing room only. They were anticipating what's going to happen. They wanted to know what was going to happen. They wanted to be a part of it. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't for the black churches. They wouldn't have had anywhere to go.
Do you have any role models in the community that inspired your activism within Natchez?
Well, most of them are dead.
Yeah,
but
if you know their name.
I admired Jack for what he did. And there was a preacher, Reverend Shed Baldwin. He was a main character on the stage of civil rights. Reverend Russell, he was there. And everybody that was in the Icebreakers with me, I admired them for what they did, because they didn't have to do it. They didn't have to put their life on the line, but they did it because we want a change to come. And if you don't make a step towards achieving that goal, it will not be accomplished. You're going to still be there doing the same thing. If Rosa Parks had not sat up front on that bus, there wouldn't have been no change. You should be going to the back. That's where I thought about it, like that. You have to step up to the plate, get a spine, and do what you have to do, even if your life is in jeopardy. You have to do what you got to do. Do the right thing.
Were there any threats made towards you when participating?
Not to me directly, but when I was working here, people would say, oh, well, they say they're going to bomb this place. They're going to come by and shoot up the place. But nobody directly said it to me. It's only hearsay I would hear it about what people heard in the streets. And they were credible rumors because we were, the Ku Klux Klans, they were in full throttle during that time. You didn't know if the one that behind the counter that owned the business was a Klansman or not. You didn't know. And more than likely he was. But I never took anything for granted. I just thank God he gave me the strength and courage and endurance and perseverance to do what I did. And like I said, if I do it all over again, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Can you tell us a little more about your knowledge of the Ku Klux Klan in Natchez?
Other than they were a hateful group of people, I never met one personally that I know of, but they were businessmen. They hid behind white hoods and white robes. You never knew if you came to face with one because you didn't know them. They hid themselves, We probably came across them or used at a store, but you didn't know who they were. Because they didn't say, hey, I'm the Ku Klux Klan. They didn't say anything like that. But I think a lot of these businessmen that were here during that time, I think they were affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan. And there were also some people on the policeman organization. They were affiliated with them too, quite a few of them. But I can't say for a fact that he was one because I don't know. It's on the rumors that you were here.
Did you see their rallies ever?
No. They will have those rallies somewhere where you couldn't see them, probably out in the country or somebody's house. They don't want to let you know they're going to have them. It's a secret society. And as of today, there still are some secret society of Klansmen abound. Not only Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, they're still intact, but not as much as they were during that time because of change of technology and people being aware of them now. But they're still about.
How have you instilled these ideas and of the civil rights movement into your children? And what are your children doing now that are reflective of a lot of the stuff that you were doing when you were young?
Well, I try to tell my kids, you have to be aware of your history, of the things that your ancestors did so that you may have a life now. Too many of them not aware of the women that walk to work 5 miles, 3 miles, and carry bags in their hands from the leftovers from the white people they work for home for their children. A lot of them are not aware of that we had to chop wood to create a fire to keep warm in wintertime, walk to get water, or wear the leftovers of the white children's clothes for you to go to school in. They're not aware of that. They're not aware of you saying, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and stand aside for that white person to have in the line ahead of you. They're not aware of that. I tell my grandson all the time, honey, you got it made. I walk to school. I had to walk to get water in a pail. I chop wood. I have helped kill a hog to put food on the table. I said, you just don't know. All y'all do is flick on a light, turn the stove on. And so we ate chicken and beans at least maybe 3 to 5 times a week. And we got chicken, rice, and gravy on Sunday. That was a feast. Mm-hmm. But you ate beans and chicken and cornbread at least 3 or 4 times a week. I just try to instill in them to be proud of your history and do better. Go to school, stay in school, and if you can, go on to college and better your life. Because education is the key. I wish I had gone on to college. But I want to see the big city. But, I don't regret anything that's happened in my life. I got 4 beautiful kids, and all of them are strong, black boys. I would say a man and a young lady. And I teach them, you work hard for your life. Don't go out here and try to get something for nothing. Don't go on a street corner trying to sell drugs and all this. This will not only bring you devastation, it will put you in jail. And prison is a business. Don't get it twisted. It's a business. All they want is your money. They want to lock you up. So try to do the right thing in life. Live respectfully and give other people respect. And always remember your history, where you come from, what people have done for you to get you to this point in life.
What do you think is a good way for people to be politically active today and voice their concerns for change?
Keep up with the news, join organizations, be aware of what's going on in the world. Because I tell my grandson all the time, when you watch news, anything that happens in news, it's going to directly affect you or indirectly affect you. And please, by all means, I bring this point home this week, please vote. Try to find out the background of all of the candidates, what they're going to bring to the table, what their platforms are they only for one people or for all the people, what their background is. Find out what they've been doing in life, what they did to help everybody. Don't vote because she's black and I know her. She's a nice person. But is she experienced? Is she going to do anything for the county or for the city or for you or for him? Try to find out about these people and where they're coming from. And then cast your vote. I told a young man not too long ago, I say, you know how many people died, was brutalized for your right to vote? Because many years ago, black people didn't have that right to vote. You didn't have that right to vote. You took it, whatever they said, you took it. Now you have to go to the ballot, check the person you want to vote for, and see if they're going to bring about a positive change. Don't hear about it, be about it. Do something about it. And some people say, well, they can do what they want to do anyway. Maybe, I don't know. But you got to take that chance and vote. Too many people die for you to get that chance to vote. The vote is very, very important. It is so important till they get tired of me talking about it. Then my grandson said, yes, you go again. I said, yeah, I go again. Let you know where I'm coming from. Don't stay at home. Vote. I don't care what it's for. If it's going to affect you, indirectly or directly, vote and see what happens.
I think those are all our questions for right now. Is there anything else we didn't touch upon that you'd like to add?
I think you touched upon everything that I was involved in and how I grew up in Natchez and the racial atmosphere was during that time. Like I say, it is better, but still so much more to do. You know, it's always got that undercover racism there, that undercover discrimination there. And we're going to have to come together as humans, not a black thing, not a white thing, not an Asian thing, Chinese thing, and so on and so on. We had to come together as humans and bring love in the world. There's too much hatred in the world now. And it is so sad. It is so sad that people hate like this. And what are you hating for? You're only human. The only difference is that our skins are different, but we're still human beings. So let us come together as human beings for the betterment of the world. So it can be a better place for not only our children, for their children, and so on and so on. And I'm so glad that y'all came here to hear my point of view on what I thought my life was about during that time, and my life in the Icebreakers and the NDoubleACP. I'm glad to give you what I thought was valid for you to have put on paper or whatever you're going to do with it. I'm so proud to be a part of Natchez history.
Okay, Doris, where are we at this point in time right now? Where are we? Where are we located? Where are we sitting?
Oh, I was going to say, what?
Where are we sitting?
We're at 9 St. Catherine Street.
Number 9 St. Catherine
Yeah, this
Street.
is the first NAACP building for local politics. George Metcalf was the first NAACP president.
Okay, number 9 St. Catherine Street. In this house, what
Yeah.
went on in this house?
Well, this is like a house where people rented out rooms on this floor. Mr. Metcalf lived on this floor, and at the very top, a little small room up there, that was my office.
Okay, so on the first floor was a rooming house?
Yes.
I've run into a number of people who said they rented rooms.
Oh, yes, that's what
so
it
they
was.
rented out homes. But this was also the headquarters for the local NAACP branch.
Yes.
Okay. What went on through the NAACP activity?
Well, they would just come upstairs and bring me papers or whatever information they needed for me to have to send out to the local NAACP members or either the national office. And I would type up papers and send to various people. And we would talk about what's going on in Natchez, what had to be done to improve Natchez. But down here, people just live their normal lives, cooking, eating, living, whatever. But upstairs, it was all about business.
Okay, so when George, the NAACP president, the attempted assassination, when they attempted to kill him, you were operating upstairs, right? As the secretary then?
No, I came after that.
You came after that?
After that, because I remember he walked with a limp.
Okay.
He had scars on his face.
So you came after the attempted assassination?
Yes.
Okay. Then by that time, the state NAACP branch, Charles Evans and his group is operating out of here.
They came. But I think Charles Evans had his office somewhere else, but where exactly, I don't remember. But I know what the White House people.
Yeah, the White House.
When the Seschsh was his secretary, Mamie Mazik.
Okay. So Mamie Mazik was Charles Evans' secretary.
Was personal secretary.
Personal secretary. Were you and Jesse B. working in this? Jesse B. Williams working at the same time here?
No, because I don't remember her. Was her last name Bernard?
Jesse B. Bernard.
Now I remember her from having a relationship with her brother, but other than that, she and I didn't really, come together.
You weren't in the same building
No.
in number 9 St. Catherine
No,
Street?
not that I remember.
Okay. Were you? So you came after I see what's happening. Jesse B. is here when the Metcalf assassination is attempted, and when they bring the National Guard are patrolling the streets.
Yeah.
You're not here at that time.
Not that I can remember. A lot
Not
of
that you
things I
can
don't remember because this
That's
has been
all
over
right.
how many years ago?
That's all right.
50,
That's all
60 years ago?
All right. So when Metcalf, when the attempted assassination happened, where were you at that time? When they attempted to did you know him?
No, I did not know him
Okay.
until he asked me to be his secretary. That's the only time I came to know him. Other than that, I didn't really know him.
Okay. So he's asking you to be secretary, and you come to this building.
Yes.
He's living here. He has a room.
Yeah, he lived here.
He lived here, and he rented out those rooms as well.
Yes.
Okay. Icebreakers. Were there any times that you had to be confronted, threatened to be arrested, or was arrested or anything?
Never.
Never. Okay. So you all would be the first ones to go in to try to not only just eat. You spent a lot of time on eating. Where else did you go?
We were the only black group that went into these white restaurants and businesses.
Okay. So you went into restaurant businesses such as what?
There was a restaurant down on Franklin.
Business, another business other than a restaurant. Hotel? You go to the hotel?
Well, we don't need to go to hotels
The Holiday Inn?
just to eat.
Just to eat. Okay.
Our main purpose is going there to eat.
To eat. Okay,
Yes.
that's the main activity that you went anywhere was
Because
to
we weren't
eat.
allowed to go in there and eat, period.
Yeah, okay. You said there were 15 members of the,
About
around 15 members of the
About
Icebreakers?
15 or 20.
Okay. You gave us Hollis Hollis Davis,
Yes.
who's still living.
She's still living.
Okay. How was the structure? You were the secretary of George Metcalf as well as the secretary for the Icebreakers?
No, I just the members of the Icebreakers, and I was the treasurer. I kept the money.
The treasurer for the Icebreakers?
Yes.
Okay. And you kept the minutes? Okay.
The money.
Okay. Where did you have your meetings?
Mostly at the barber shop.
Okay, treasurer and secretary. I kept minutes. Not necessarily secretary, but you kept minutes.
Money.
I kept the money.
Treasurer.
Not minutes. Okay, surgery.
If I remember correctly, I think Hollis was the secretary.
Okay, Hollis Davis.
Hollis Davis.
Secretary. Okay. Any other officers?
Other than
Jack, the president.
Jack was the president, and other dude was the vice president, but I don't remember his name.
Okay, that's all right. We might be able to find him out. Maybe Davis will get at you
Maybe.
because he's one of the few people remaining. If you know, I'm gonna hunt him down. Okay,
Who's he gonna hunt down?
hunt him down so he can be interviewed.
What
I
person?
can interview.
What person you talking about?
Davis, Hollis Davis.
Hollis Davis is a lady.
Okay, her then. Okay, is that the same person you were talking to a
Yes.
while ago? Who won?
I talked to her on the telephone. I asked her would she be willing to
Okay.
come, but she said she had a very important engagement at that time and she wouldn't be able to come.
Okay. Did the NAACP local branch have meetings here?
It's upstairs.
Upstairs.
You know, it depends on what it was about. Most of it's about getting papers together to send to the national office.
Okay.
What was happening in Natchez, what was happening in New York, and what they want
Okay.
us to do down here.
Okay. Any bombings attempt here? Any shooting?
Not at this building that I can remember, but there were a lot of rumors to the effect that they were going to do this.
Right.
They was going to ride them down the street and shoot it up, but it never came to life.
Okay. Okay. Who is when you become the secretary for George Metcalf? He's still the president of the local branch.
Oh yes.
Okay. Who else are officer in that NAACP with you? Who else is Wallace Jackson Sr. with him? You remember who Wallace Jackson Sr.
The
was?
one that got bombed?
Yes, the one that killed. They
Yeah.
succeeded in killing.
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember him? Okay, that's all right. But can you remember? What about the history say that the local branch had other people, other members, who were such as the Grinnells and the Tolls and those people. They were all part of the local branch.
As members that I remember, but as officers in there, I don't remember.
Okay. So if you after the bombing and after Charles Edward comes in, shall we just say that's a time about when you got started as the secretary for George Metcalf?
Yeah, but somewhere in that area.
Okay, because you were after all that happened. Okay. Mm-hmm. This is a continuation. Were you still doing Icebreaker stuff at that time?
Yes.
At the same time you were secretary?
Yes.
Okay, so if we're trying to put a time to this.
I said somewhere in the 60s.
Huh?
Somewhere in the 60s.
It's late
but
65.
specific.
It's late 65. Because the boycott, okay, did you participate in the boycott?
Yes.
You have, what did the NAACP role did the local branch have in that boycott?
We marched.
You okay? You marched?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Where?
Well, it was the main street. And more than likely, it was like doing uptown in that area. But what
Okay.
specific streets, I just don't remember. I know it was uptown somewhere.
Right. Where were you headed when you marched?
Normally, we would head towards where the courthouse was.
That's right. Okay.
Did you march multiple times?
Oh, yes, they marched a lot of times.
You were marching with them?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm your secretary, and this is the local branch, because there's a time when Charles Edwards is here that marching takes place, and they go to they get arrested and go to Parchment and jail and what have you. Are you here during that time?
Yes, I was here during that time, but I was fortunate enough not to be in that group that got caught up in that. But I did read the papers that
Okay.
statements they made, I had to send them to the national office of NAACP.
Tell me about that. What happened?
Well, they got them arrested. I guess when they found there was too many of them to keep in the jails here, they sent them to Parchman.
Okay.
And they put so many of them in a room, like 10 or 15 to a cell, and they gave them milk and magnesia to drink. And they gave one square piece of toilet paper. You know how big one square piece of toilet paper is? With this one toilet.
Okay.
And then they would turn the air conditioner on and turn the hose pipe on them.
Okay, so you were taking testimony and sending it to the National NAACP office?
Yeah, they wrote their statements out, and then I turned it into National Secretary.
Yeah, to the National Secretary of the NAACP.
Yeah.
This is interesting, Albert, because if she's here at that time, this is when it's the day after Metcalf gets bombed, that they put the 12 demands before the city, and when the 12 demands for integration and what have you, for justice, for rights, when they're rejected, that's when the marches start.
I'm assuming so.
Okay, I'm not tying it down to time because I can see if you know the street that they were on, that's faded in your mind. All right.
Seriously.
Okay, but I can put her here at the same time that if she's here when they got arrested on October
The first day we marched was Maine and Franklin.
Yeah.
In front of Bush Jury and over by the Clock Theater on that far
Yeah,
side.
I remember
businesses
them.
there.
Okay.
You marched for you went one full block and turned around and came back. You just made a continuous circle.
These are the marches, not
You
necessarily.
couldn't march 2 by 2.
Okay.
Single file.
Right. Right.
Spaced out.
But these are marches before the arrest marches, or these are
Yeah,
separate?
this is before the
Separate, yeah, okay, that's what I'm trying to put it in focus. Okay, so if you're sending the testimony that is being given to you by, being reported in meetings or what have you, by the people who were arrested for marching, what is the can you remember what the relationship, Charles Edwards is the state NAACP here, and you are going to the national. And okay, I think I see what was happening. There was an argument between the national and the state.
An argument?
Yeah, well, they didn't like what Charles Edwards was doing here.
Oh, I didn't know
The
that.
national, yeah, it's in the records. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just trying to put things in focus because when you said you came after he was bombed, which might have been 2 or 3 days or what have you, he asked you to be. You might have been here when he was bombed, but you can't quite remember that.
No, I don't think I was here when he was bombed because I remember specifically he walked with a limp
Yeah.
and he had some scars
On his face. Okay,
face.
so he's out of the hospital. Okay, all right. I see where you're somewhere in the time that the people are arrested for Parchman, which is October, because August the 22nd. Well, it's a couple of weeks. No, it might even a week. A couple of weeks. August the 27th is the attempted assassination. October the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and the 6th is when these arrests take place. So you were here when the arrest took place, right?
But the ones who marched and got sent to
Went to
Parchman,
Parchman.
yeah, I was
Okay.
here during that time.
Okay, I got it. Okay, I put you here. Okay, you said you were here. I'll put you here. Okay, so what else was going on upstairs?
Other than normal business,
That's the whole NAACP is upstairs.
yes, the one
And-
small room up there. That's where everything took place for us.
The small room. Nobody was no rental was going on up there.
Oh no, not another small
Okay, everything,
office.
all the rooming is on the bottom. Okay.
Where would they have their meetings if everything happened upstairs?
You mean meetings?
Yeah, the NAACP meetings.
Well, they would have those at various churches,
Very church, yeah.
you know. But when they had somebody come in, or somebody came in when I talked to Mr. Metcalf, you know, they would come upstairs and say what they had to say. And if he wanted me to send some kind of paperwork to the national office, I would type it up and mail it off.
Okay. Can we go upstairs can you show us where your office was up there?
Sure, no problem.
Okay. You want to do that? Yeah.
We have like a couple more questions.
Oh, I have
Oh, okay.
just one last question. So how did the election of Donald Trump change a lot of what, like, how did it affect you? Let me just, like, keep it really broad.
How did it affect me?
Yeah, like, just, like, do you have any specific instances that have really just, like, where you felt like, oh my gosh, like, everything that I did was being
You need to keep it
undone?
real for you.
Oh, you're talking current
Yeah,
events?
Donald.
Yeah, right now. So
Anything.
in the present.
I think he is a terrible president. The man is not presidential material. He does not speak for all the people. He is disgusting. He is despicable. I wish he had never been elected president because he's doing the country no good. For me personally speaking, he has made the United States a laughing stock. Everything he does is in a positive, not a positive way, but a negative way. What president gets on TV and tweets to individuals what he think about them? No man does this if he's the president of the United States. If you got a beef with someone, I think you should talk to that person in private, not let the whole world know what you think about that president. He is not worthy of the office. He has fired the flames of hatred to an all-time high, as far as I'm concerned. Why would you take immigrants and separate them from their children, babies? These people sleeping on rocks, not getting medical help, not having decent food to eat, decent clothes to wear. Why would you do this? Why would you say that there are very fine people who are racist, skinheads? Why would you do this? You let the whole world know exactly what kind of human being you are. And I pray on it every day that God will find a way to get this man out of office. I don't want to see him be a president again for a second term. In the name of Jesus, I'm claiming he does not, because he is not for the people, by the people, of the people. He is for himself and his little group of rich friends. There are too many things in America to be dealt with than trying to put yourself on a national stage like you almighty. You are not. You are not. You think you got it all, but you don't have it all. You think you got it going on, but you don't. Because I firmly believe in the name of Jesus, God sits high, he looks low. And one day, that man gonna get his due justice. Because he's done too many things, and the Congress have not brought him to justice for, have not charged him with. And this is just not right. This is just not right to be a lying, pathetic person that you are. I'm sorry I get so passionate about it, but that's the way I feel.
That's it? You said a couple more questions. That was it?
What was it?
That was my one question. Did you have anything?
No, you answered my question in another form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
do we take that up, sir?
Stopping here.
So this is August the 7th, Natchez, Mississippi, at number 9 St. Catherine Street, which was the headquarters for the local Natchez Adams County NDoubleACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People.